Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville meeting at the Cade Museum. Please remember to silence your cell phones, and if you're watching on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. And now, please welcome Pete Enwall to the podium for our song and pledge.
And Gordon and I, let's see, try this so you can hear me. Gordon and I didn't get a chance to talk about the song we're going to sing, God Bless America, but first I'm going to tell you an Easter story because it's Easter week. Teacher had her second grade class in front of her, and she asked the question to them, what is Easter? Can anybody describe Easter? And so she had three people that raised their hands. There were two little girls, and there was little Johnny in the back, and Johnny was the mischievous one in the class. And so she saw Mary and Susie, and she said, well, I'm going to ask Mary or Susie, but I'm not going to ask Johnny. So she picked on Mary, and Mary said, well, Easter is when we get together and eat turkey, and the family gets together, and we celebrate giving thanks. And so the teacher said, well, yeah, thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Now maybe I'll call on somebody else. So she called on Susie, and Susie said, teacher, Easter is when we have presents under a tree and we get up in the morning and we open the presents. And the teacher said, well, no, thank you. Thank you. We'll move on. And there's the only one left, and that's little Johnny in the back, waving his hand like, she said, I don't want to call on him. I looked around to see if anybody was looking. Nobody else had their hand up. So she said, okay, well, I'm going to call on him. So little Johnny said, well, teacher, Easter is when there was a man that used to preach about peace and love, and his friends turned him into the Romans, and they crucified him on a cross, and he died, and so they put him in this cave, and they put a big rock in front of the cave. And she said, well, gee, I'm really impressed, Johnny. That's quite awesome that you would say that. And she said, can you finish the story? And he said, why, yes. They rolled the stone away the next morning, and he came out. And that means that if he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter. So now we're going to sing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. And now joining us via Zoom, Kevin Thorpe with our invocation.
May we pray. Lord, we are beyond grateful for this day, all that it means and all that it represents. Thank you for our club, each participant and their families. We are especially grateful for today's speaker and the organization that he represents. We pray a special blessings upon the families in Baltimore, Maryland, that you would cover them and keep them, wrap them in your loving arms and care. Continue to bless what we do and what we say for your sake and for your glory. Amen.
Thank you, Kevin. You may be seated. If you're a guest or visiting Rotarian, please remain standing to be introduced.
I'd like to introduce 2 guests that we have today visiting our Rotary Club, Christina Espinoza Haywood and Derek Haywood. Christina is a retired professor from Brandeis, and Derek is a retired engineer, and they're just learning a little bit more about Rotary and are looking for a club to join. So please welcome them.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I just wanted to introduce a guest, Chris Cano, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris, just real quick?
Okay, yeah, Chris Cano, thanks for having me today. I've been in Gainesville about 18 years, live here with my wife, 2 young daughters. I have a business in town doing video productions, Better Me Productions. Just looking to meet some new folks and kind of get more acquainted with the community.
Hi, my name is Catherine Mokler, and I'm the Rotary president, and I'm going to do a short announcement, so I'll probably just wait to tell you more at that point. Thanks.
Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you joining us today. Now for our first announcement, Catherine Mokler.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here today. I'm the Rotary president. I also happen to work at the city of Gainesville as an attorney. And I just wanted to make this announcement so that you can tell all of your friends, relatives, co-workers that they're invited to our next Rotaract Club Social, which will be at Blue Agave on Tuesday, April 2nd at 6:15. And new members will get a free drink. We're a pretty close-knit group. It's about 12 of us that participate in meetings regularly. We have Christmas gatherings together, Thanksgiving. We are friends outside of our club too. So it's a pretty welcoming group. And so I encourage you to send people our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And now next up, Brendan Shortley with a short announcement.
You know, you're getting tired of me coming up here every week, but this is the last one for a long time. I just was asked to give a recap of our Boy Scouting dinner last week. American Values Dinner. Steve Spurrier came, gave a great speech. Chris Doring introduced him. Eric Goodday and myself were the dinner hosts, if you will. And our goal was 50,000, and by the end of the night, we had reached 59,000, and by the next day, we reached 64,000. So... And just wanted to thank you all. This was the most turnout by Rotary ever. We spilled out of our table into other tables nearby, other Rotary members who had their own tables. It was just amazing, and it touched my heart to know that we're trying to secure the future leaders of today and tomorrow. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that update, Brendan. And now please welcome to the podium for a holiday poem, John Gregory.
Today it's called Hair-Raising Easter. Easter Bunny's cousin would have to delay, since something about his wig wouldn't stay. For him 'twas getting dark, and I guess he'd remark, I truly was having a bad hair day. Jason has always had his problems and fears. The Easter Bunny was brought in for cheers. Bunny's always happy. He's never crappy, and everyone needs a friend with all ears. At Easter, the church was building a new gym. Preacher told his flock they could pick out 3 hymns, but they'd have to give money. Sarah gave $100 grand, Sonny. She stood up and she said, I'll take him and him and him. Three hymns, right? 3 hymns, you know, and Easter is the time to reflect on things above you, of our action toward others, and then what it does to. In the words of the hare, remember, love is to share, because you're no bunny till some bunny loves you. Happy Easter. Hey.
Always a treat, John. Thank you. And now, without further ado, let's welcome our president, Linda Reinhardt, to the podium.
I promise I'm not trying any jokes, any poems. I can't follow that up. I know. It's okay. It's all right. I'll take it. Okay. Well, here we are. We're back in the Cade. I know we've been back here for a little bit, so it's good to see everybody. We're going to just jump right into our speaker because I don't have any pressing news today. So it gives me great pleasure. We've got two individuals from the Mirror Image Leadership Academy. We have James Miller, who is the first executive director of the organization. He's a graduate of Alabama A&M University with his Bachelor's of Science in Animal Science and with a minor in chemistry. James also matriculated at Howard University, where he received his Master's of Divinity. He is the owner of Miller Consulting Agency and most recently served as the executive and associate pastor at Northview Christian Church in Montgomery, Alabama. We also have today Greg Bradley, who is the owner of G. Bradley Allstate Insurance Agency. Although a native of Gainesville, Greg spent more than 20 years in Atlanta as an executive and management consulting before moving back to Gainesville in 2018 to purchase the insurance agency his father started in the early 1980s. Greg earned his BS in accounting from Florida A&M University and an MBA from the University of Virginia, Darden. He is an alumnus of both Leadership Gainesville and Leadership Atlanta and currently serves as a board member for the SFC Foundation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our speakers and we'll get right into things.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Miller. I'm the Executive Director at Mirror Image Leadership Academy. I've had the honor of serving as the Executive Director for our organization for the last 2 years. As I moved to Gainesville, Florida, I was a full-time chaplain at Haven Hospice. When I transitioned into my position here at Mirror Image Leadership Academy, it's a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to you all learning more about Mirror Image Leadership Academy. At this time, we're going to move through our presentation, and I'm going to introduce our founder and visionary, who is Greg Bradley.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So when you are from Gainesville and you leave and go away, you come back, there are people that come up to you and you do not recognize them. You know, maybe it was from school or something like that. But this morning, I had the biggest surprise that I've had since moving back to Gainesville was Miss Colburn came up to me, and this is my 4th grade teacher. So I'm going to try to do it justice. But I bring you greetings from the Sunrise Rotary Club Thursday morning with Pam Gretter, and we thank you for allowing Rory to be the first feast master outside of this group for this year. So is the presentation, is it up? Okay. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story, and that story starts with this one statement. Is it on? Oh, all right, I got it. It starts with this statement, that all mankind is created in the image and likeness of God. And before anybody gets nervous, it's not a religious presentation, right? Before you get nervous. But it starts with this truth, that all mankind is created in the image and likeness of God, and that is the truth. And from that truth, we can go an infinite number of directions, right? But for our story and what we want to share with you, we're going to say, okay, so what does that mean for African Americans in Alachua County, right? So 8 out of 10 children are born into single parent homes. 1 in 3 black males goes to prison at some point during his lifetime. And depending on what statistic you look at, it's about a 40% poverty rate, okay? Now those are the facts. So you bounce that up against the truth, you're created in the image and likeness of God. These are the facts, right? And it's not for a lack of effort. I mean, there is mentoring, there is tutoring, there is outreach. The university has outreach. Santa Fe College has outreach. The churches have outreach. Nonprofits have programs. It's not for a lack of effort, right? So if you back that logic up, we're created in the image and likeness of God, and the facts are showing at least some distortion of that, and it's not for a lack of effort, right? You ask yourself, if we're doing all these things, how come the outcomes aren't changing? And so for me, having spent almost 2 decades as a management consultant, right? If you expect the outcome, you're not seeing the outcome, and it's not because you're not trying, then maybe, just maybe, we're not asking the right question, right? Maybe we need to get to a little bit deeper of root cause. But if you want to attack a strategic problem, you have to start with the hypothesis, right? So anytime we tackled a big problem for any of our large companies, and many of them that I've consulted for, you would know, if it's a strategic problem we're trying to solve, we always start with a hypothesis. And then we storyboard the answer, and then we go find the data to fill in our story to prove or disprove the answer. We're approaching this no different. Our hypothesis is simply this: there is already a leader on the inside of young black males. It just needs to be developed and exposed, okay? So what does this hypothesis do? Number one, it takes us out of the community as a whole and brings us down to focus. So we're not talking about all the issues that plague the community, because you cannot distill the ocean, right? What we're trying to do is, first of all, get down to our problem set. Because the other thing I learned is that most people can't solve problems because they can't define the problem that they're trying to solve, right? When you try to solve everything, you will get nowhere. So this does one thing, is it brings us down to a focus of young black males, okay? The second thing it does is, when you're in this space, this target audience is usually described as at risk, disadvantaged, underprivileged, underrepresented, you name it. The adjectives always start from a place of liability, right? And we are taking the exact opposite approach of saying, no, we're starting from an asset. You're already created in the image and likeness of God. You're already good. We're going to start from that asset, and that takes the equation and it turns it sideways. And we're not starting with underrepresented. We're not starting with at risk. We're not starting with those adjectives. We're starting with, you're already a leader. You're already created in the image and likeness of God, okay? But if we want to be successful at this, this requires a complete reconditioning of the mind. Right? We need to get these young men to rethink how they think about themselves, right? And then also, as the problem solvers, we need to rethink how we approach this problem, right? Because we have been conditioned as a community to think that the answers are always out there, right? You think the answer is in DC. We think the answer is in Tallahassee. I won't make any comments about thinking the answer is in downtown Gainesville, right? But that's what we've been conditioned to think. When the reality is, God has given us imagination. He's given us creativity. He's given us the stuff on the inside of us for us to solve our own problems. We got to get these young men to understand, you got to solve your own problem, right? Whatever circumstance you were born into, that's the circumstance you were born into. And life is not fair. But we need to get you to rethink how you think about yourself so you make better decisions for yourself and for your family going forward. So it is with this in mind that we created Mirror Image Leadership Academy. Okay, so now if you go to our website, you pick up the story here. We're not talking about hypothesis testing on the website, but that is the thinking behind it, was that we created this organization as the structure for us to be able to gather the data to test this hypothesis. And the fundamental premise is simply this: we do not need to make you a leader. God already did that. We need to help you discover the leader that God already made you to be. And we will do that using this model: self-image plus purpose plus faith plus character plus work ethic. So if you know who you are, if you know why you're here, if you're willing to step out on something that you can't see and believe that it's going to happen, if you have character, and integrity. What you do in the dark matches what you do in the light, right? And if you're willing to work hard, work ethic. There's no substitute for hard work. So if you think about these 5 things, they're agnostic to skin color, they're agnostic to ethnicity, they're agnostic to socioeconomic status. It does not matter. These 5 things are in the control of the individual, whether that individual believes it or not. How you think about yourself is in your control. What you think your purpose is in your control. Your faith is in your control. Your character is in your control, and your work ethic is in your control. Okay? Our model is not a model of how to make friends and influence people. It's not a model of leadership of how do I get people to follow me. It's a model of self-leadership. Because if it's a model of self-leadership, then that means that everybody can be a leader because everybody can lead themselves, right? Now, while the model works for everyone, we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the historical context, right? So if we just get people to move at the same pace, then we will never catch up. So we needed fuel to throw on the fire and an accelerator for the discovery process in these 5 areas, and that accelerator is exposure, right? So how do we take exposure to people, places, things that you've not seen? How do we use that exposure to accelerate your discovery in self-image, purpose, faith, character, and work ethic? Those 5 things are what we're focused on, and we use exposure to help accelerate it. Okay, so what exactly then is Mirror Image Leadership Academy? It's a 3-year leadership discovery experience for incoming 7th graders. There is only one window in, the summer between 6th and 7th grade, and we will keep you from incoming 7th grade all the way through your 9th grade year. Okay, and it's based on 3 pillars. 3 experiences. Our summer academy, which is every day during the month of June from 8 to 5. We have them here. This is one of their exposure trips. They come to the Cade Museum. Then there's our school year academy. It's the 2nd Saturday of each month. Those 2 experiences involve exposure trips. We will always focus on the curriculum, which we've developed over the last 3 years now under self-image, purpose, faith, character, and work ethic. We will focus on the curriculum and then take you on an exposure trip to support the curriculum, okay? Then our 3rd leg of it is our extended day or after school. It's Monday through Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. Santa Fe College used to donate the space to us. Their enrollment went too high, which is a good thing. But the UF Law School now partners with us, and they give us the space at the law school for free. So it's hosted at the law school right now. Okay, so what makes us special and different is really around this model of exposure trips. So in year 1, it's local, right? What can we show you in Alachua County that you're not familiar with? Year 2 is domestic. How do we get you out of Gainesville to get you to see that the world is bigger than Gainesville? So they go to Tallahassee, they go to Tampa, they go to Jacksonville, they go to Ocala, and then they spend the final week of their summer in Atlanta. And we'll show you a video of that here shortly. But in the 3rd year, it's an international exposure, right? Because we want these young men to know at the end of 3 years, the world is bigger than your house, in your neighborhood, in our city, in our state, in the United States. The world is bigger than that, right? So, you know, I'm about to turn it over to Mr. Miller, but what we're trying to get at is, you know, will you sell drugs? I don't know. That's a decision that these young men have to make. But if they do, it'll be a decision that they made that was an informed decision, not because their environment dictated to them that that was the only thing possible. Because now you've seen locally, nationally, internationally, and you've been exposed to people for 3 years that didn't do that. Will you get that young lady pregnant before you get married? I don't know. I can't say. But if you do, it won't be because you didn't see people for the last 3 years who didn't do that. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Miller now because he is on the operations side and can talk to you more about what we actually do in the experience, and then I'll come back and wrap us up and we'll take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. As you can see, we're going to move through some of the exposure experiences from this past year. And so this was our first international trip. And the pictures that you see, we had the opportunity to go to Accra, Ghana, which is the capital of the country of Ghana. And our scholars had the opportunity to do school for a day, go to the last slave bath, had the opportunity to do family day, to where it was a traditional naming ceremony that they had the opportunity to participate in when they were in Ghana. And this was a traditional drum and dance class. And I'm not going to move through every picture. Here are some of our local experiences here in the city of Gainesville. As you can see, our scholars down here in the right had the opportunity to come here to the Cade Museum. This is one of our favorite exposure experiences every single year. Some more local pictures here. And we're getting ready to queue up a video, but in the video, at the start of this particular video, you will hear our young men reciting their daily affirmations. And as Mr. Bradley just communicated to you all, we're not just after behavior modification. We're trying to change the belief system of these young men. And so if someone tells them that they cannot do something, they will be able to tell them, I will be able to persist until I succeed. And so our daily affirmations, I'm made in the image and likeness of God. God loves me, and I love and respect myself. I was born to lead, and God has a valuable plan for my life. There's something in this world that only I can do, and that is why I'm here. I'm a scholar. I will meet every academic challenge. I will persist until I succeed. I am bold, handsome, and brilliant. And so at this time, we're going to queue up the video to show to you, and I'm going to talk through some of the talking points here in the video. My name is James Miller. I'm the Executive Director at Mirror Image Leadership Academy, and I would like to take a moment to thank our partners, our donors, and our supporters for your contribution to our organization this year. Please check out this highlight reel of our local, national, and international experiences during our summer academy this summer. Once again, if you want to know more about Mirror Image Leadership Academy, be sure to go to mirrorimagelleadership.org. Thank you again, and see how you can make a difference.
I am made in the image and likeness of God. God loves me and I love and respect myself. I was born to lead and God has a valuable plan for my life. There's something in this world that only I can do, and that's why I'm here. I am a scholar. I will meet every academic challenge. I will persist until I succeed. I am bold, handsome, and brilliant.
Ghana. The scholars really had a blast. And this was our host while we were in Ghana.
We are happy that y'all are not busy, y'all are home.
Walking through the market to go get some fabric for our photo day. This right here was the family day, the traditional naming ceremony. All the scholars had to wear all white. And we were actually eating some fufu here in the compound with the family after we received our traditional Ghanaian names. The slave dungeon at Cape Coast Castle. This was the busiest slave port during the transatlantic slave trade. A very surreal moment. And this is just moving through some of our local experiences, our curriculum day. And what you're gonna see is a lot of different pictures of local experiences here in Gainesville. This was actually at a boxing gym when we were in Ghana at the back of the West African slums. A world champion from Ghana ended up putting this here to give back to his community. up, everybody? First morning over. Welcome these young scholars to home base. We're here in Atlanta. We had just made it to Atlanta for our week-long national trip. That's Morehouse College in the background. They had a tour of the Morehouse College there in Atlanta. Some pictures of them at the Braves game in the Bank of America suite. Now, as a part of this Atlanta experience, you also see some local pictures in here as well. The scholars also had the opportunity to visit Tech Ops at Delta, and this is World of Coke in Atlanta. And that's Anthony Richardson in the middle. He comes back and gives to our organization every year and spends a day with the scholars every summer. So that just shows everyone what you have the opportunity to see. But the mindset behind it is not just about the place that you're going to, it's about the people that we put these scholars before and how their story actually ties back into one of our pillars of self-image, purpose, faith, character, and work ethic. And what are we after? What are we after? It's not just about the 12-year-old young man that you see that's before you. We're after the 62-year-old grandfather that he will become. Because inside of every last one of these young men, you have three generations: themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. And so we're not just after the 12-year-old that's before us. If you go back to the statistics at the beginning of this presentation, 1 out of 3 are expected to go to prison in a lifetime. If your father doesn't go to prison, it's a good chance that you will not go to prison, because we only rinse and repeat what we see. And then when you look at the statistic of 8 out of 10 of these young men being born to single parents, our responsibility is to help these young men discover who they are, discover their purpose, and after that, we want them to take on a job, to be a responsible adult, to take on a wife, and then to start your family, to be able to break that cycle. And then you have about a 40% poverty rate. And when you look at that, if they have parents together in the household, still today in America, the number one wealth mechanism to transfer into your family is ownership of your home. And so we want to be able to change these statistics, but you cannot create wealth in one generation. You can become rich in one generation, but we're after a 50-year horizon. We're not just looking for what these young men will become today, but we're looking forward to what they will become.
No, just one comment on that. When I said we got to change the way we think about the problem as the problem solvers, this is what I'm talking about, right? Most of the things that we have, most of the work that is being done is about intervention. It's about how to stop something once something is in place, right? We did not get here overnight. We're talking about 400 years to get into this place. There is no way we're getting out in 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 generations, maybe, but we're not talking about that. So when we say we need to have a 50-year time horizon, yeah, we got to plant the seeds today in the hopes that these young men will become responsible men, will become responsible and loving husbands, and will become responsible and loving fathers, and in that order. But we are fooling ourselves if we think that we can change this in 2 or 3 years. So the metrics and the framework that we're looking at are generations out, not now. What we're looking for is to help them become better 62-year-olds, not 12-year-olds. And that is the only way you can get to the root cause, is to get to the root of the matter, right? So, and if you're successful at that, then you can change the generational trajectory of families, right? That's what we're after, is if you put the family back together in its traditional sense, a lot of the problems go away. That doesn't mean you don't have other problems, but the problems that we're trying to solve result from a breakdown of the family. So if we can get the family back in order, then a lot of these things go away, right? And so, I'm sorry, James is supposed to be doing this part of the presentation, but I'm here now, so I might as well just keep going. All right, so here's our board. You probably know many of the people on here, maybe some that you don't. When we started off with 8 Black males, 7 of which own businesses, right? And that was very intentional. The one that wasn't was a leader in education, Troy Strappy. We were very intentional about getting business people, because we need the business community to get behind us. We need people that can attract resources, be efficient with resources, and not play politics, right? So we were no politicians, no community activists, none of that. We have now since expanded and diversified the board, because we do understand we need those various perspectives. But in the beginning, we were trying to make a point. If we want to solve this problem, then we got to be the ones to solve the problem, right? And then, so James has a staff. James is our only full-time employee, right? He's got a part-time staff of facilitators and an assistant. But we pay everybody that interacts with these kids. It is not a mentoring program. It is not volunteer-based. You come in this child's life, you leave this child's life whenever you get ready. If we pay you, we expect you to show up, we expect to train you, we expect you to deliver the curriculum the way you've been trained. So the only part that we use volunteers for, and it's very few of them, is in the after-school program to help with academic support. But otherwise, we pay the people that interact with these scholars on a regular basis, okay? So I just wanted to take a minute here and tell you about how we got to where we are money-wise. So in year one, it was 2021, we raised about $83,000, or am I not in it? We raised about $83,000, we spent $45,000. There was no James, there was me, a couple of board members, and we had 12 scholars. We started with 12 scholars in 2021, and we almost killed ourselves, but we made it through. We made it through. Year two, I'm very fond of the Cade Museum, and I'm even more fond of the Cade family, because what happened in 2022 I got an opportunity to present to Miss Mary Cade before she passed away, and then Phoebe and her siblings granted us a 3-year grant, awarded us a 3-year grant so that we can help hire James. So that was a huge thing for us. We added some more scholars. We had 30 at that point. We raised $177,000. We spent $166,000, right? We had a class going to Atlanta. We had a bigger class starting. In 2023, the resources, what we needed, the need for resources went up even more. We added 25 scholars. We have 51 scholars right now, 11 in the third year class, 18 in the second year class, and 22 or 25 in the first year class, okay? We added Ghana. That's a very expensive trip to go on, but it's a worthwhile thing. So this year, fast forward, we have a $550,000 budget. We will graduate our first cohort May 16th. That will be the end of the experience for them. And then we will add another 25 this summer and continue to go. And we think we're about a $700,000 or $800,000 organization with 75 scholars on an ongoing basis. So that's where we are. How do we get here? Tremendous support from our business community and from wealthy philanthropists, right? So of the 700 plus thousand, maybe it's 650 something thousand we raised in the first 3 years, not one dime of it came from government. Right? We need some of it to come from government, but not one dime came from government in the first 3 years because of the nature of our board and the nature of the relationships. Is very business-minded, business-focused. I don't even understand the concept of nonprofit. Yes, it is a nonprofit, but yes, we need to operate it as a business. We need to be efficient with the resources because it is not our money. We need to be transparent with it, and we need to spend it efficiently. So I'm going to stop our comments there, and thank you for your time this morning to allow us to share Mirror Image Leadership Academy with you, or this afternoon to share, and we can take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm Deborah Newell. I appreciate the presentation, and it's great to see that this is going on. I probably have many questions, but the first one that comes to mind is, where do you recruit your students from, and how are they vetted for the program?
That's a really good question. We partner with several of the middle schools here in the area. 4 in particular is Howard Bishop, Lincoln, Westwood, and Fort Clark. And at those particular middle schools, I have the opportunity to volunteer at the different schools, but we have a relationship with the staff, the principals, and the administration. We kind of send criteria to the schools and tell them what we're looking for in the scholars and in the families, because the school actually partners with these families, and it's a 3-year commitment. And so each school usually submits about 25 to 30 names according to who they feel would commit to the program for the full 3 years, and after which we invite them to a parent informational. We have 2 parent informationals every single year, and they kind of self-select after we move through this presentation and talk about the organization and what the commitment level would be.
So what we tell them is, we need a 3-year commitment. Don't send us the ones that come from 2-parent homes and they're going to be successful regardless. Don't send us the ones that are so bad behaviorally that there's nothing we can do. So send us the ones in the middle where we can try to move the needle, and then the schools decide based on that criteria who they will send to us, and then they self-select it.
Thank you. Your after-school program, your Saturday program, do they meet in the middle schools, or where do you meet?
So we're kind of nomads. No, on Saturdays it's the Chamber of Commerce. Eric O'Day is on our board. The Chamber is has been a willing partner. So on Saturdays, it's the Chamber. I'm not sure that that's going to be okay after this year. I think we're going to be too big for that. And in the summer, we've rotated locations. Last year, we were at the old Highland Presbyterian on Northeast 16th Avenue. Before that, we were in Dion McGraw's building on Northwest 8th Avenue, down from the police station. And in our first year, we were operating out of Keller Williams' office with Craig Wilburn, sorry.
Hey, I'm Robert Mance, current president of the Matheson History Museum, and I would encourage you to bring your young men to see the Great Southern Music Hall exhibit before it goes down in May. And later in the summer, come back and see the Voices and Votes Democracy exhibit, which the Smithsonian is contributing to. We're on the east side. We'd love to have them come in. But my question is there a comparable program for young Black women?
That's a really good question, and we've partnered with the Matheson Museum twice now. And so you all have had the opportunity to host our scholars for the past 2 years, and we're looking forward to that future partnership there. Thank you so much. I am aware of some other programs here in the city, not quite like Mirror Image Leadership Academy, but I do know there are other organizations that have an emphasis for young ladies, just not us at this time.
Thank you guys for your presentation. How do you plan on tracking the cohorts after they graduate, after they finish their 9th grade year?
That's a really good question. So right now, after
I got this one, James. Okay. I got this. So
this is the founder, y'all.
So whenever I ask a question and I got a slide, I know it's a good question. All right, so here's our measurement framework. I know you can't see it, So conceptually, we know the data that we want to gather over the life of these young men. Infotech just recently has volunteered to partner with us to build the database and the strategy and the data model for us capturing it. But it's basically, we got some things we're measuring while they're in the program. We've got summer employment and graduation to track afterwards. Whether they go military, trade, or college, we want to track that. But we want to also let them know, like, you don't have to go to college, but you have to continue your education, the development of your skills. And then all the way out, one of the last things we want to track is, when did you get married, right? And we want to know if you got married without having children, right? Because that really is the success criteria. Because if you've done that, once you start a family, you're going to start a new cycle for your family.
Over here, could you put the trip to Ghana in perspective? Basically, the emotional impact that your scholars may have experienced.
Okay, so I don't know how to quite put it in words, but I'll give you an example. And if y'all are like my Rotary at 1 o'clock, it's time to go. I took my family prior to taking the young men, right? Because I told my girls they wouldn't do anything. I have 3 daughters. I told my girls these young men wouldn't do anything that I didn't take them to do. So we went to Ghana about 4 months ahead of them so we could do reconnaissance as well. There is something about seeing the door of no return at the slave castle. And even though the people that left that particular castle, most of them went to the West Indies. They didn't come to the States, right? But there were other castles that came to the States. Seeing that door of no return and knowing that your ancestors, when they hit that water, they never came back. So the biggest learning for me personally and for my children was we never think about the other side. So the native Ghanaians shared their stories, about one day their father was there, their uncle was there, their sister was there, their cousin was there, and the next day they were gone. And they were never seen again. And the impact of what had on those families that stayed, right? We don't hear that side of the story, but to have them welcome you, and they continue to say, welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. And we may not even be from Ghana, right? But the concept of somebody saying welcome home, I think is what stuck with the scholars the most. So when you talk to them, many of them will say, it changed, it did something to me to hear people say, welcome home. I don't know if that answers it.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Hate to interrupt a good program, but as Greg said, you know, we don't want you guys like beating your watch, but I'm sure they'd be happy to answer some questions afterwards if anybody's interested. Again, thank you, gentlemen, very much for a wonderful presentation. I do want to let you know that I have certificates for you. In honor of your speaking today, we'll be making a donation to the Bread of the Mighty Food Bank in your honor. So our speaker next week is going to be Francine Vincent from the Alachua County Community Organizations on Active Disasters. Just in time to get us ready for hurricane season, let's start getting prepared for that. Our quote of the day: the delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. And that's Steven Spielberg. And our Rotary Reading Safari number for the day is 119. 119. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.